What if I told you that some of Hollywood's biggest legends were actually the kindest, most humble people you'd ever meet? In an industry fueled by egos, scandals, and ruthless ambition, a few stars stood out not for their drama, but for their decency. James Stewart, the humble hero. James "Jimmy" Stewart wasn't just the iconic everyman of American cinema. He was the real deal. Beneath the aw-shucks charm and slow, thoughtful speech was a man whose humility never dimmed, even as the spotlight blazed brighter. On set, he treated lighting techs and extras with the same respect he gave A-list co-stars. He knew their names, listened to their stories, and never once acted like he was above anyone. But Stewart's kindness wasn't a PR move, it ran deep. After serving as a decorated pilot in World War II, he quietly supported fellow veterans for decades, never seeking attention for it. He also donated large sums anonymously to those struggling in the industry, often helping families without anyone knowing it was him. Young actors would later recall Stewart pulling them aside with soft encouragement, helping them through difficult scenes. He wasn't flashy or loud. He didn't need to be. His authenticity did all the talking. In a town obsessed with image, Stewart's legacy reminds us that quiet strength and genuine decency never go out of style. But while Stewart may have been Hollywood's humble hero, he wasn't alone, and the next star on our list left just as lasting a mark, with even more grace to spare. Audrey Hepburn, grace that never turned off. Audrey Hepburn didn't just look like elegance, she lived it off camera. She was every bit as graceful. But it wasn't about posture or pearls, it was her empathy that set her apart. While other stars retreated behind velvet ropes, Audrey walked into war zones. As a UNICEF ambassador, she traveled to famine-stricken villages and refugee camps, not for photo ops, but to sit with mothers, hold starving children, and speak for those with no voice. Her compassion was relentless, and yet she carried it all with quiet dignity. On set, her kindness was just as legendary. When a nervous young actor forgot their lines, Audrey didn't sigh or scoff. She sat beside them, patiently rehearsing until they felt confident. She remembered birthdays, brought gifts to crew members, and insisted everyone be treated with respect, regardless of their job title. Despite global fame, she never played the diva. In fact, colleagues say she seemed almost surprised by her own stardom, still humbled by the work, still more concerned with kindness than cameras. Audrey Hepburn's beauty wasn't skin deep, it radiated from within. And while her image is timeless, her heart is what truly made her unforgettable. And speaking of unforgettable gentlemen, our next actor defined charm with soul. Cary Grant, the suave softy. Cary Grant had the looks, the wit, the effortless charm, but behind that polished exterior was a man who genuinely cared. While the world saw him as the ultimate leading man, those who worked with him saw something else entirely, a quiet anchor in a chaotic industry. Unlike many stars of his era, Grant didn't buy into the hierarchy of Hollywood. He greeted janitors the same way he greeted studio execs. Handshake, eye contact, full attention. He had a habit of slipping crew members small gifts during long shoots. Nothing flashy, just thoughtful touches that showed he noticed. And if a young actor was struggling, Grant was the first to pull them aside, offer a few tips, and remind them they belonged. He wrote thank you notes not through assistants, but by hand. He remembered names. He followed up on conversations. And behind the scenes, he donated to charities for children and medical research. Always anonymously, always sincerely. Cary Grant might have played the clever, cocky rogue on screen, but off screen, he was someone who made people feel safe, seen, and appreciated. And if you thought that was rare, wait until you meet the woman who changed Hollywood and gave it away. Mary Pickford, the sweetheart who fought for everyone. Mary Pickford wasn't just America's sweetheart. She was Hollywood's quiet revolutionary. With her golden curls and wide-eyed innocence, audiences saw charm. But behind the scenes, Mary was sharp, fearless, and fiercely compassionate. At a time when women had little control in the industry, she co-founded United Artists, yes, co-founded, to give actors creative freedom and fair pay. She didn't just open doors, she built the building. But Mary's kindness wasn't confined to contracts. She donated generously to hospitals, orphanages, and struggling artists, often without her name attached. She'd walk through the studio, greeting everyone, from A-listers to stagehands, with the same radiant warmth. Young actresses remembered her pulling them aside for gentle encouragement, offering guidance when they felt lost in a male-dominated world. She never let fame inflate her ego. In fact, fans said she'd stop for every autograph, look them in the eyes, and make them feel like the only person in the room. Even off-screen, she organized fundraisers and community events, never craving recognition, just results. Mary Pickford proved that power doesn't have to come with cruelty. And for the next legend on our list, kindness wasn't just a trait, it was choreography in motion. Fred Astaire, the gentleman who danced with humility. Fred Astaire floated across the screen like he defied gravity. But it wasn't just his feet that were light. His presence on set was calming, respectful, and quietly generous. Known for his perfectionism, Astaire could have easily leaned into ego. But instead, he treated everyone, from backup dancers to lighting techs, with the same level of care he gave his own performance. He'd show up early, stay late, and often walk over to thank the crew personally for their hard work. One often told story involves Astaire organizing a surprise celebration after a grueling shoot, complete with homemade desserts and heartfelt gratitude. That wasn't a one-off, it was who he was. Younger dancers said he'd gently guide them, never belittling, never barking. Just quiet corrections, soft encouragement, and a look that said, "You're doing great, keep going." His belief that every person on set contributed to the magic made everyone feel like part of something special. Even off set, he gave back generously to charities. Never with a press release, always with intention. Fred Astaire wasn't just a master of rhythm, he was a masterclass in modesty. And as the lights dimmed on his stage, another woman was stepping up. Not for applause, but for a cause. Carole Lombard, the firecracker with a heart. Carole Lombard lit up the screen with razor-sharp wit and effortless charm, but behind the scenes, she was known for something even rarer, her gutsy kindness. She didn't just smile for the cameras, she cracked jokes with the crew, remembered everyone's name, and made sets feel more like family than a factory. One day, she heard the crew was feeling run down, so she showed up with crates of fresh oranges for everyone, just because. But Carole's generosity wasn't limited to snacks and small talk. During World War II, she was one of the first stars to step up for bond drives, traveling nonstop, giving rousing speeches, and shaking every hand in the crowd. She didn't just show up, she showed out. Even in an industry known for ruthless competition, she supported fellow actresses behind the scenes, often helping them land better contracts or navigate shady producers. Colleagues said she'd quietly slip money to struggling crew members, no questions asked. And while her sense of humor made her beloved, it was her loyalty that left a mark. Carole Lombard was the kind of person who'd fight for you and make you laugh through the fight. But next up, a man who used comedy for kindness and a mission that went global. Danny Kaye, the comic with a cause. Danny Kaye could light up a room with a single grin, but what made him truly unforgettable wasn't just his comedic timing, it was the way he used it to heal. On screen, he was a whirlwind of energy, dancing, joking, improvising like no one else. Off screen, he brought that same energy to one mission, making life better for others. He was one of the first major celebrities to work with UNICEF, traveling to war-torn and poverty-stricken areas, not as a figurehead, but as a hands-on advocate. He didn't just smile for the camera, he told stories, held sick children, and used his fame to raise millions. On set, he was a morale booster. Crew members remembered him for breaking out into goofy songs to ease stress or pausing a scene to cheer someone up with a joke. When tensions rose, Danny brought them down with laughter. Colleagues said he never looked down on anyone. He thanked everyone. He made time for anyone. He believed kindness wasn't a choice, it was a responsibility. Danny Kaye reminded Hollywood that joy is powerful and compassion is cool. But the next star didn't need the spotlight to shine, because she radiated grace even in total silence. Irene Dunne, the quiet force of kindness. Irene Dunne wasn't the loudest voice in the room. She didn't need to be. Known for her calm presence and gentle grace, Irene earned the nickname the First Lady of Hollywood, not through scandal or spotlight, but through sheer warmth and unwavering decency. She brought a sense of peace to any production she touched. When tempers flared or tensions rose, Irene had a way of smoothing everything over with a soft laugh or a kind word. It wasn't calculated, it was just who she was. She treated everyone on set, from acclaimed directors to brand new grips, with equal respect. And if someone was struggling, emotionally or professionally, she was the type to invite them into her dressing room, pour a cup of tea, and simply listen. Off camera, she quietly donated to charities, helped fund scholarships, and supported struggling actors, all without making headlines. Her faith guided her values, but she never preached. She just lived them. Younger actresses saw her as a beacon, a role model who led with compassion instead of competition. She didn't demand respect, she earned it with every soft-spoken gesture, And just when you thought Golden Age Hollywood couldn't get any more heartfelt, along came a man whose kindness rewrote the script. Jack Lemmon, the teammate. Everyone wanted Jack Lemmon didn't act like a star. He acted like a teammate. From his earliest roles to his award-winning performances, Lemmon made it his mission to make everyone around him feel seen, supported, and safe. He was the guy who introduced himself to every new cast or crew member with a handshake and a grin, no matter how small their role. His charm wasn't just reserved for the screen, it radiated through every corner of the set. New actors often talked about how Jack would stick around after his own scenes just to watch theirs, offering encouragement or a quiet thumbs up from behind the camera. And when tensions ran high, he'd crack a joke, pull out a story, or start playfully teasing himself to lighten the mood, never at someone else's expense. But Lemmon's kindness didn't stop at the studio gates. He quietly supported addiction recovery programs, understanding those struggles firsthand. He also made hospital visits, particularly to children's wards, where he'd lift spirits not with fanfare, but with his signature warmth. Jack Lemmon proved that sincerity and success aren't mutually exclusive. And rounding out this list, a woman who blended poise, power, and unshakable kindness, even when the industry tried to test her limits. Olivia de Havilland, grace under fire. Olivia de Havilland was elegance personified, but don't mistake her grace for weakness. In an industry where actresses were often treated like disposable props, Olivia drew a line and held it with dignity. Her legendary legal battle against Warner Brothers wasn't about ego, it was about fairness. She risked her career to challenge the studio system's stranglehold on actors' contracts, and she won. That victory didn't just change her path, it reshaped the future of Hollywood for every actor who followed. But even in the midst of high-stakes battles, Olivia never lost her kindness. Cast and crew described her as poised, patient, and unfailingly respectful. When a co-star flubbed a line, Olivia didn't roll her eyes. She quietly suggested a break or offered to rehearse together. One story from the Snake Pit recalls her going out of her way to build trust with actors playing psychiatric patients, encouraging them to approach their roles with empathy and care. Off-screen, she was just as thoughtful. She remembered birthdays, wrote heartfelt letters, and stayed close with old friends long after the cameras stopped rolling. Olivia de Havilland was living proof that you could fight the system, keep your cool, and still be the kindest person in the room. In a world where fame often magnifies ego, these legends prove that true greatness comes from how you treat people when no one's watching. They didn't just leave behind iconic roles, they left behind stories of generosity, patience, and quiet strength. Whether it was James Stewart mentoring young actors, Audrey Hepburn holding malnourished children in war zones, or Olivia de Havilland changing Hollywood contracts with grace, they all chose kindness when it mattered most. These weren't just stars, they were the heart of an industry too often focused on surface over substance. Their actions whispered what the tabloids never printed. That character lasts longer than applause. So next time you think of old Hollywood as just glitz and scandal, remember the ones who shined differently, the ones who brought joy, gave freely, and stood tall without stepping on anyone. Because sometimes the nicest people leave the most unforgettable legacy.